heading to the Lone Star State where they know my name. Live in Tyler, sleep with one eye open. Now I'm in a slow car chase to the Lone Star State. Mother told you sleep with one eye open. Told me never pull the lever. I said you needed something better. I look at the page and it's just some words. I can feel it in my bones, oh, when I come into your home. Know someone dying here, cry my dear.
Trippy fade out. Let you know it's time for Talk Like No One's Listening podcast, episode number 5. 5. Made it to number 5. And today we are talking about the album We're in Love and the World is Ending by one Tyler Cole. And the reason why I'm talking about the whole album today is because I did the whole album. I recorded most of it, maybe 80 to 90% of it, and I mixed and mastered the whole thing. So I kind of know what I'm talking about on this one. Where to begin? There's a lot to say about this one. Let's just say, first of all, listen to it. If you haven't, pause this podcast and switch to whatever streaming service you use and listen to this, even just briefly, just to skip through a couple songs just so you have an idea of what we're talking about. But listen to the whole thing all the way through because it deserves it also. So let's see. I'm not going to comb through like every song. That would just take too long. Time is ticking. Because of my daughter waking up early morning again. So 6 in the morning, 6:30ish, somewhere around there. So many good songs. The first song that you just heard that I was playing was one of the tracks that's almost at the end of the album. It's called Bones Part 2. And that's one of my favorites from the album. I just really like how that groove comes in. The just drums, bass, and guitar. And then just how it builds and, towards the end and everything. Overall, this is a very well-made album, very musical. It's all live instruments by a bunch of really dope musicians, all of which are friends of Tyler's. So that works out pretty well. All your best friends are dope musicians, and you're a music artist trying to make an album independently. Hey, there you go. But this is just one thing to highlight for me, and for I think anybody that's a bit of a older, maybe not, maybe the age doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, I think this album is something that shows the world that there's a lot of really dope, talented young musicians out there, and they can come together and they can create good music for the world, and that it's not all what it once used to be, which was a very dark times for music. I would say the 2000 teens. I mean, there's always been good music, but I feel like the lows got really low in the teens, 2000 teens. The lowest of the lows, and much of which was out there in the mainstream. So music like this is very refreshing. I think I'm just gonna talk first about maybe just my personal experience going through working on this album, because I listened back to some of my previous episodes where I'm talking a little more technical side of things of what I was doing mix wise and stuff like that, but I kind of feel like that's really fucking boring. I don't know, it's just because I'm listening to myself talk about some technical shit that I already know. I feel like it's if anything in this entire podcast is interesting at all, I feel like it's not the music stuff that I talk about. So I'll just take you on a journey. Story time, kids. Gather round. So at the very, very beginning, I had met Tyler basically the first day I worked with him. I was like, almost like we're in the studio. Hey, nice to meet you. Hey, okay, let's work. Okay, here we go. So I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about his background, who he was, his music background, his styling, what he's like into, what he plays, what he's going for. And I just didn't have anything to go off of. All I just knew was like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, hit record. Okay, that's it. Like just one thing at a time, building up the songs. And that was about a little more than a year ago is when it very first started. The very first songs of this album were recorded. And they were just, over the course of the year, it was just piece by piece, it got put together. And I'll be honest and saying that in that beginning stage of it, I didn't know really what I was listening to. It was the whole album for me is just one long series of curveballs. And that's not in a bad way. And I feel like that's a bit what Tyler is kind of all about. I mean, with his art and just what he's trying to do. Tyler, if you're listening, go ahead and chime in. Oh, by the way, what is his info? If you don't have it, let's take a look real quick. Come on, internet. Work with me. Okay. At Cole Tyler Cole. COLETYLERCOLE. Okay. We got that. And so, what was I saying? curveballs, especially in the earlier stage of this album, because most of these songs got built, one layer at a time, and it would start with Tyler doing something on a guitar most of the time, and then he would just do a vocal, and that would be just the first foundation of it. And then over time, he would have his friends come in and just lay a track of whatever instrument they play, whether it be guitar, electric bass, upright bass, saxophone, flute, drums. It wasn't until like the later stage of the whole album that I finally heard what the songs actually were, what they were meant to be. So it was the first half of this whole process, at least. I didn't know what the album was. I didn't know what I was hearing. I was just recording just one part at a time, and I was trying to not have any kind of judgment on it, because I just knew, like, I don't know what this is. So there was a bit of this kind of go with the flow kind of confusion. And probably what actually it was until I started like mixing the songs. And that's usually what happens a lot for stuff that I work on. It's like when I get to the mix is when I start to hear it, because I have to download it into my head. I have to dive into the matrix of the song. I have to go in and look at from the inside out of the song. So I notice and I examine and I see things in a different way from the whole time that I've just been recording it. And by the time I got to, well, let's see, the album came out, I believe it was around October 6th or 7th. It was like, 2 weeks ago from this Friday, today, October 20th. And I just listened to the whole album on Spotify maybe like 2 days ago from today, October 20th. And that was the first time I had listened to it since I finished like all the mixes and stuff. And so there was probably almost a month had gone by of me not hearing the album after I had worked on it. And I do that usually because I work on something and then I'm done, and then I just have to wipe it from my memory, wipe it from my brain, because I have a very limited capacity. So I need to push something out to put something new in, whatever the new thing is. My brain is, like that. I just know I have a decent processor, but I only have like a 256 gig hard drive. So I have to manage and budget my storage constantly. And then, stuff just automatically will just get pushed out. And then I won't realize until it's gone that it's not in my head anymore. And then I just have, oh shit, that's right. I used to know that piece of information and now I don't. It is like that when I transitioned from working in film post-production to music, that before I was working every day and I was working in like After Effects and Photoshop and all that stuff every day. And I just knew that like the back of my hand. And then maybe like a year into working in music as an engineer, I had one time where I was looking at After Effects just for whatever reason, with like the application like open, looking at it and feeling like I don't remember a single thing about this program. Like if I had to go back and do exactly what I was doing every day for those few years, I couldn't do it. I couldn't remember a single thing of what I would do, how I would work. Anyways, enough about that shit. Continuing on, the point I was trying to make, see, like, it just happened. The point I was trying to make has left me already. Which is, I took a long break from listening to the album because that's just what I do. And then I knew I was going to review the album for this episode. So I listened to it about 2 days ago, kind of all the way through over the course of like a day and a half. And then it was just a moment of, so that's what it is. And I was pleasantly surprised. Like I was hearing it for the first time for what it is, removed from the fact that I worked on the whole thing and I knew the album intimately. And to forget all of that and kind of meet it again for the first time is, it was a refreshing experience. Just listening to it in my car and playing it at home while I'm feeding my daughter breakfast. She was rocking out too, by the way. Tyler, if you're listening, she was, what was the song? I think it was like Experimental Drugs was playing in the background, and starts out mellow, just a kick drum, bass, and then Tyler singing, kind of in a mellow way, low key. And then the thrash comes in, the drums and the guitar, and then immediately she starts headbanging. It's hilarious. And then it kind of happens just for a short moment of that thrash, and then it comes back down to the calm in between, and then back again, and just every time it would come back in, she would just be nodding again. So you got a fan, Tyler. You got a 2-year-old fan. But I heard it, everything in a new light, including, Tyler, the artist, the person. As I got to know Tyler more over that course of the album, it all made more and more sense to me, what he was about, what he's trying to do. And I think this album is very, very accurate in representing him as a person. Because when you meet Tyler, at least from my experience, meeting him was, he was a quiet, kind of calm demeanor type of guy, face to face. But then seeing what he would do through his art is a completely different person, almost. Like, oh shit, that dude's wild. But in person, you're like, oh, this guy is like the chillest dude ever. Much like me. So it's like, it's just a very sharp contrast in his persona, which is cool, which is also what you get in his music. Because so many of these songs, like within the song, either track by track or within the song itself, it changes like that. It'll go from, the song will start like, what I was talking about, Experimental Drugs. It starts out like feeling kind of just chill. It's setting you up as if, oh, this is cool. Like, just relax. Just listen to this groove real quick. And then just like, bam, out of nowhere. And you're like, oh, shit. All right. And then back and forth. so on and so forth. And yeah, and then there's a lot of different sounds going on, styles, like moods in the album. There's a lot of depth in that way, and you get a bit of his views on the world. Songs like The Government Song, songs like Experimental Drugs, Blow Up Your TV, Bones Part 2. You get a little bit of personal story, him talking about going to meet his dad in prison. Interesting story there. If he ever puts it out, I won't say, it's not my business, but I'm sure at some point he might be talking about his bio. And then you get something like, what was it? Love Times 1,000, featuring Jack Sampson. All just really nice, just pretty vocals. Smooth, just nice harmonies, nice falsettos, just really just minimal, instrumentation. And then, Government Song. Crazy. Energy the whole time. And then you get occasionally here and there, you get bars from Tyler, which is, another one of his talents. So, yeah, basically, high five, Tyler. Good job. Congrats. Next to Me, that's a good one. I like that one a lot. That one was a cool song. That was featuring Dev Hynes and Willow Smith. And that song was cool because that was one of the songs that most of it, or a lot of the song, maybe the most of the song, initial part of the song was done all at once. Like we were all in the studio together, and Dev played, he kind of started it off. He played the drums and the bass and the piano, I believe. Let me take a quick listen. There's drums, piano. Yeah, there's a couple other tracks of music that got recorded later. But yeah, the core of it was done pretty much in one day. And then Dev did his vocals that day, and so did Tyler. And so did Willow. Pretty much, yeah. There's a couple of touch-ups later on, but yeah, it's mostly all there. So that was a cool thing to see, the whole song being born basically in one day. And you're hearing Dev rap, which I don't know if I've ever heard that before. I've listened to a good amount of Dev's music. Not everything, so he might have rapped before and I missed it, but I used to listen to his album when he had the album as Lightspeed Champion, Falling Off the Lavender Bridge, is it? Falling off the lavender. Yeah, Falling Off the Lavender Bridge by Lightspeed Champion. You should check that album out too, if you've never heard of it. It's got a really funny looking cover. It's not what he looks like today. But this was when I had first heard of him, and I just saw a video to, what is it? Is it this song? Yeah, the opening song of the album, Galaxy of the Lost. That's another artist that throws good curveballs because it's just a funny imagery of how he looks. It's kind of like it doesn't his image of what he looks like doesn't match the music, which is like the contrast is what's kind of funny to me. Anyways, I used to listen to the album a lot back in when it came out, 2008. And side note to Tyler's album, talking about the song that has Dev on it, which is Next to Me, is that I didn't know I was going to be working with Dev until I think basically the day of. Like, they just had mentioned that he was coming in, and I was like, Dev. I was like, Dev who? Huh. And then he came in, and I'm like, oh, that Dev. So it's funny, I've worked with lots of different people, lots of different kind of famous artists, big time people and all that. And over the years, not even over the years, like pretty quickly, like I just learned to like, it's not a big deal if somebody's a celebrity or famous or whatever. You know, they're just people. So whatever. Um, but working with Dev was like secretly a big deal for me because I had listened to that Lightspeed Champion album so much at that time in 2008 because specifically I liked the album just anyways, but then I had shortly after I had got the album and just had it on my iPod back when people still had iPods. I went on a backpacking trip to Europe with a good friend. His name is Alan DeCastro. Alan, if you happening to be listening, what's up? And yeah, we went on a backpacking trip through Europe, and that was one of the albums that I just had. That was one of the soundtracks to my trip, so I could remember clearly being on a train, taking overnight trains going from city to city. So we just get we would be in a sleeper cabin, I guess, and then you wake up early in the morning, like 6 or 7 in the morning, and you're just on the train, and then open up the window, stick your head out, and you're like riding through Switzerland or something. So you're seeing the countryside of Switzerland. You're seeing the hills, you're seeing farms, you're seeing sheep, you're seeing just imagery that looks like what you would see in a painting. And then you're smelling the morning air, and got my earbuds in, listening to Lightspeed Champion. And that was a moment. That was several moments, mornings and things like that I would have in the rest of my travels. So anyways, the album, was very meaningful to me in that regard. And I always just thought, oh, this is a well-made album. And this was like also the same year I first started working in music as an intern. So he was just one of the people that I always thought, oh, it'd be cool if, for whatever reason, one day I work with him. And I didn't really see it that it would be likely because I was working in a commercial studio where it's all mainstream music. And it's all like pop and R&B and rap and stuff like that. So I thought, yeah, this guy's never going to come to a studio like this to record. It wouldn't make sense. But lo and behold, almost 10 years later, well, I guess that was last year. Yeah, like 8 years later, 7, 8 years later, I work with him. And it was interesting to see how he works. Yeah, I mean, check him out. I'm not doing this episode on him. That's enough about him. Back to Tyler. Anyways, but that was just a highlight for me working on this album. That was just one extra thing. And it's something for me to talk about in this podcast that's not some technical, boring shit. So, early on, as I said, working on these songs, and I didn't see the full picture of it. The curveballs were throwing me off. I was swinging and I was missing. Tyler's a good pitcher. Don't know if he actually plays baseball, but if he does, I'm sure he's good at pitching. I would imagine. He's got those lanky arms. That seems like good for throwing balls. But yeah, I wasn't getting it. It was like going over my head. I'm like, what? Why does the song do this? Also, for me at that time, kind of leading up, I had spent so many years, or most of my years in music, working on mainstream music. Those were just the clients that I had. So I was so into this world of kind of standards and structures, and this is how you make songs, this is how you make hits. You know, it's like that's what everyone's trying to do. We're trying to make hits. So stupid. Just make a good song. But in working with Tyler, it was such the opposite spectrum of that, where it's like, fuck your standards. Fuck everything you think about what you think music should or could be. Here's what I think. And yeah, I was just so stuck in that old mindset that I didn't get it. And that's another thing which, when I listened to it just a couple of days ago, it finally just dawned on me and hit me. And I was like, oh, I'm broken out of that mindset now. I mean, it's happened gradually with other people that I work with too. Just in general, the past year or so of my life working is I let go of a lot of those kind of ideas and concepts and standards for myself. So now, when listening to the album with fresh ears, it hit me that like, oh, okay, this is dope. It's like I get it now. I'm swinging and I'm hitting, I'm connecting now. I see what's happening. I get it. I'm with it. And there's something that I think applies to a deeper, what should I say? Applies to, I guess, just what's happening socially in the collective consciousness, is that art like this is important for times that we live in now, when there is so much of the collective consciousness that is set in structures that were set up a long time ago by people that probably had an agenda in setting up those structures to benefit them, the people that are setting the shit up. So as time goes by and these structures no longer serve the collective, what do? We got to change it. But sometimes people don't even realize that they're in the structure. They're living within it. They can't see it because they're in it. And it's not until they're shown something radically different that they can even imagine that or step outside of what they're in and look at it, and then look at this other thing that's radically different and be like, hey, what's going on here? And at least they have the perspective to just see something different. Now, whichever way they choose, that's up to them. If they want to keep with going on the way things are, or if they want to go for something new, that's individual's choice. But at least they are shown that there is a choice. And I think art is one of the best ways to show somebody that, show people that, show the masses that all these structures in their mind are just structures, and you can break them all. You can throw rocks in this glass house. Why would you build a house out of glass anyways? So fuck it, let's break it anyways. And what am I saying? I don't even know. But that's what happened to me, I guess, is what I'm saying. Is that I was able to just get rid of preconceived ideas about how you should make music or what are you trying to do. I mean, it's, if you want to make pop music or whatever, any kind of standardized structured music, that's totally fine. I find that there is good in any style or genre of music. It's just, are you making good music or not? Are you being honest? Are you being authentic? Are you cool? I mean, like, do you have style? Like, is it, is it actually good music? And that applies to any genre. So I think so many people that are in music, trying to do music, they have the agenda of trying to become successful. And for a lot of people's version of success, that's money and fame. And if that is, I mean, that could be a great motivator for sure. It's worked for a lot of people. But not necessarily if you just want to be an artist, like a true artist. You want to express yourself and you want to put out your personal message to the world through your music. Kind of fame and money is really irrelevant in that. That's just a byproduct of it. But yeah, if you want to just churn out some assembly line, factory farmed, GMO, fast food kind of music, maybe don't. Oh, do whatever you want, but the world is just saturated. We don't need, I'm not going to say we, because I'm not speaking for we. I'm speaking for me. I would say enough of that. How about take a chance on yourself and just be honest and make what you honestly want to make. See what happens if you haven't tried before. Just see what happens when you decide that, hey, why am I trying to become an EDM producer / DJ? Do I actually really like this? Or do I just see all these other famous DJs and producers on Instagram and I see their lifestyle and I'm like, hey, I want to live that lifestyle. How do I do that? Oh, I just have to have a laptop and Ableton and Serato, tractor, whatever. All right, that seems pretty easy. That's probably That's extremely general. I'm not saying like all EDM people are like that, but a lot are. I have met them, I have seen them. But hey, they're just trying to go for what they're trying to go for. Do you? Don't listen to what the fuck I'm saying. I have no authority on anybody else's life. Barely my own. But bringing this back around to Tyler's album, We're in Love and the World is Ending. I don't have anything to say against it. This is 100% him, 100% accurate, authentic, honest. And what more, what more can you ask for? And it's actually just good music. There's good musicianship. There's a lot of, like, all his friends are really dope. They're all, like, just as good as any other professional studio session musician I've come across. They're all young dudes, and they just, yeah, it's very interesting. Future is open for them. And it's really cool that they're kind of this collective, so they all are able to contribute to each other's projects. And in that way, they just, create this sound, this movement. And I think that's really important to have musicianship and style and just education on music, like have that be in style, have that be popular, a popular notion, popular idea that people are going to think to themselves, oh yeah, I want to be more into music. I want to go deep into music, to what it really is, what it's all about. I think that was lacking for a long time. And a big part of that was a lot of what we heard as the most popular music in the past few years. If you want to break it down to, like, anybody that was like hearing, pop music, urban music, rap, and dance music, those were the things that we were just hearing the most of on the mainstream level. So of course, if that's what most people are hearing, then most young people, that's like what they're being exposed to the most. So that's just their reference. So of course, most people are into music and would want to try something out, see what they can do. And if that's all you're hearing, then yeah, that's what you're going to try to do. That's what you're going to try to emulate. But within a lot of those styles, they are very much, well, at least now, what we were hearing before, there's very much just a cut and paste kind of template type of music, where it was very easy to create that music without having a musical education, which is a positive side to that, with that it's accessible to everybody, that's good. There's kind of levels the playing field in that way. But also, because it is so easy for just anybody to do, it just became such a normal thing that all these people that are doing music, that are becoming successful, are not actually musicians. And I would just see that a lot in the studios. Just guys that really don't know anything beyond what they do. Especially like I saw that more so in the EDM world of it. People that I would work with, that's just all they know. It's all they listen to. Like they couldn't even tell you, like, they called everything house, but like not everything is house music. Like it's like Swedish House Mafia. I would say, I mean, at least for me, when I think of house, I think of when I was a teenager and in my 20s, and I was going to clubs where they're playing house music, and that is what they're calling it, and that's what it is, and that's what I'm hearing, and that's completely different from what you would hear in the 2000 teens of what people were calling house. It was just completely not that at all. It's like you can't call trap music hip hop because it's not at all. But yeah, that was just the funniest thing. Is like so many guys I would meet, just like I could tell they didn't know anything about the history of the genre that they were in beyond more than like 5 years ago or something like that. They couldn't tell you what house music from the 90s sounded like, or the early 2000s. It's like just not at all the same. And likewise, yeah, people that would do trap beats, like they couldn't tell you anything about any artist or producer from like the early 90s, probably. Oh, the Tupac, Biggie. Oh, really? That's as deep as you go? Oh, Snoop Dogg, yeah. Oh, yeah, Snoop Dogg. But now I feel like it's not the case anymore. Maybe I'm just hanging out with different people now. That's probably part of it also. But not just that. I feel like, yeah, just even just going through new releases of music, you seeing what's coming out on all these new release things like on Spotify or whatever, and you see what's coming out, and it's a lot of real music now. So I think we're good. One on our way to being good. Could be better. Always can be better. But definitely headed in the right direction now. And albums like these are what's contributing to that positive direction, I'd say. Enough dick riding this album. It's good. So what I've said it. There you go. Hope you agree. So yeah, and as I got to know Tyler more, I realized we were very, very similar in a lot of ways. I think similar in certain personality aspects, and then just in our life experiences. So I was able to connect and understand him more on that level, because knowing where he comes from and knowing that I kind of have a similar thing, as far as like we both grew up not knowing our dads, finding out, well, in slightly different ways, but yeah, living life through this modern society in that way. I think definitely it just definitely creates a certain type of person if that's how you grow up. Which I think that's important, to be able to find the ways that you connect to someone personally or relate to them when you're in this type of working relationship where I'm the engineer, I'm recording, I'm mixing, and I'm helping him. The point of me being the guy that doing what I do is that I'm helping the artist to create and manifest their vision. So it's just key. It's just vital that you connect and relate to that person, because everything that you do, every decision that's being made has to be in line with the vision the dream, the plan, the goal. And the better you know that, I feel like for music like this, which is what I've kind of maybe said previously in another episode, is that the music is it is the person. It's not a product. It's not a single. It's not a hit. It's not a whatever. It is the person. You're making the records. You're making the person. You're making a version of the person. An analogy, if you will. So it has to be accurate. Or it should be. Pay justice to the artist, the person, what they're trying to express. And I'm not necessarily thinking about all this kind of stuff while I'm working. I guess it's just in the background. It's in the subconscious, I guess. And I don't really realize until much later when I'm recording a podcast and I'm just talking freestyle and the thought comes to me like it just did. By the way, I've been doing this on episode 5, and talk like no one's listening. That's still pretty much the case. No one's really listening. But I listen back to all these episodes that I do. And in the same way, I record them, I upload them, they're published, they're out there. And then I wait a little bit and then I'll listen to it in the car or something. And I'm able to listen to it in a way that's with fresh ears, where I can kind of disconnect that it's me talking and that I was sitting here at my house recording this. Part of it also helps that I'm just not preparing anything. I'm just freestyling the whole time. So I don't always know what I'm saying until I listen back to it. But it's been a very interesting experience for me. Even if this show or this podcast, whatever you want to call it, would continue to not have any people listening to it, I think I still would keep doing it because I just felt like, wow, I'm saying a lot of words, a lot of thoughts, and I'm saying them as they come to me. And I'm saying them in a way that, because the concept is no one's listening, I'm not catering my thoughts and my words as much. I mean, I'm talking about songs and music that I'm working on. I'm catering that much, but I'm just kind of letting it go. So I take off certain filters, and in a way it's very therapeutic to just talk for a long time. Because there are a lot of moments I've realized listening back that I'm having thoughts that are not necessarily conscious thoughts. They're coming straight from my subconscious to becoming words that I'm saying. And then I listen back to that later and I'm like, oh, so that was in my head. So it's like I'm cleaning house in a way, cleaning out the closets. What's in the closet? I don't know. Probably lots of dust and dead spiders. And maybe some old sweaters that are way too big for me, that I used to wear when I was younger because I didn't understand the concept of wearing clothes that fit you, like so many people. Hey, that's what happens when you grow up through the 90s. Everything was baggy as shit, and that was like the cool shit. And then it took me a long time to realize that was not cool. If we're in the 90s, you want to go back in time and you're not wearing baggy clothes, you look like an idiot. Or you're just not cool. What the fuck you doing wearing those skinny jeans? It's hilarious to look back at photos and stuff. Anytime you look at any photos of yourself from at least 5-10 years ago, it's like, what? Who is that? Yeah. Okay. So hey, it's interesting doing this talking thing, because we're just in a time and place where so much texting going on. Texting, emails, like just everybody, not everybody, but so much of communication is being done through written language. It's being read, it's being typed, it's being written, which is just a completely different way, because you are texting and typing, so much of it is a catered thought. You know, think about how many times you're texting somebody and it's all you have to say is basically one sentence of information, but you spend quite a while figuring out, how should I type this? How should I word this? I want to make sure that I come off the right way, whether it's professionally, you just want it to sound super professional, or it's a personal thing and you're just talking to a friend or a family or somebody like that, and maybe there's emotions involved, and you're like, how do I type this thing to get across what I'm feeling emotionally? Or you're reading their text and you're like, how are they feeling? This text feels like this, but I'm not sure if that's how they're actually feeling. So there's a lot of like unknown gray area in all of that, where it's like when you hear somebody talk face to face or just recorded or whatever, but you're just hearing someone talk about what they want to talk about, is pretty, it's much easier to read them and to understand the context of what they're saying, where they're coming from. Of course, some people are really good liars, but for the most part, yeah, you're having a conversation with somebody, like you can tell how they're feeling, most likely. You could tell if they're being sarcastic. You could tell if they're being dead serious. And yeah, that's just, that aspect of communication has been overtaken quite a bit by this ambiguous language, ambiguous communication. And that's not really helpful if you're trying to communicate person to person on a personal level. It's fine. It's great for other ways when you just need some data. What time? What place? What's the email address? Yes or no? How many should I get? What color do you want? There's, things like that. I just need some data. I don't need to call you and have a conversation. Just give me that one piece of information that I need that can be impossible to misunderstand. Just, it's good for that. Super convenient. But so many times people are trying to express complex feelings and emotions through text, and that is just silly. Pick up the phone. Just talk. And anybody else out there that has been curious about podcasting or anything like this, I say do it. It's pretty easy to do, to get set up. I'm an engineer already, so I have a mic, and I have my laptop to record with, my interface to record with, and I just made an account with Libsyn, LIBSYN.com. No no promotion going on. Just this is what I did, and I just made an account with them. It's maybe like $15 a month, and then I just record in my pajamas at home. I upload, and then boom, it's on everybody's phone, should they choose to check it out and listen to it. So it's very exciting to me to know that it's there potentially for almost anybody to listen to. So far, they're not listening, but that doesn't bother me at all. I'm fine. But I think it's a fun thing to do. I recommend it to anybody, and not even to just, you would think of like, oh, I don't have anything to talk about. What do I talk about? It doesn't matter. I have a little bit to talk about with each episode, but then if you've listened to any of these before, I start off with that piece of, a focused topic, and then I just venture off, and then I'm just talking about whatever. And it's, if people out there, if any of you find it interesting, that's great. But if not, it's just something I'm doing for me, for now. And I think it's helpful. It's a helpful way to clear out some thoughts, because there's just so much going on in life right now that you need to just give your mind a quick little cleaning, a restart. Defragment your hard drive. Check and repair your permissions. If you get that, if you know what I'm talking about. Disk permissions. Repair your disk permissions. All right, I'm done. Hey, my daughter didn't wake up yet. Made it to the end. I'm going to go wake her up now. See you next time. Talk Like No One's Listening, Episode 5. Peace.